Okay, it's 5 o'clock. Chaplain, please. Brent.
Evening. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we gather again to give you thanks this evening for the many gifts you've bestowed upon us. We thank you for our families, for our friends, and in a special way for our community. Lord, as this commission gathers tonight, we ask for your guidance and your wisdom. We ask that all of tonight's discussions and deliberations and decisions would begin with your inspiration, be in accordance with your will, and continue with your unfailing help. Lord, we make this prayer with faith and trust in your promises, as we ask all glory and praise be unto you, as we pray in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. If you'd rise, please, face the flag, and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, I'll call the October 21st, 2024 meeting of the Burleigh County Park Board to order. First item is roll call of members, please.
Commissioner Herman.
Here.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Here.
Commissioner Munson.
Here.
Commissioner Bakken.
Here.
Commissioner Schwab.
Here.
Commissioner Boehm. Chairman Bittner.
Here. Next item is approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second. A motion is second to approve. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Commissioner Herman.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. Consideration of the July 15th, 2024 meeting minutes.
Mr. Chair, I read them and felt that they were in order, so I would move to approve.
And if you want to combine these, I went through the bills and they are in order as well.
Add that to your,
I will add that to approval of the bills.
so that's a
Second.
motion and a second. Okay, that motion and second. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Commissioner Herman.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. Next item is Parks update.
We would ask Parks and Rec to come up and give us a little report, please.
Good evening, Chair Bittner and Commissioners. Just a quick update as far as the county boat ramps are concerned. We have pulled the dock at both McLean Bottoms and Knifel boat landing. The docks still remain in at Kimball Bottoms and up at Steckel. The fish cleaning station has been shut down, starting to hit that intermittent time of freeze thaw. I don't want to run the risk of blowing any pipes above ground, so that time of year when we start closing those things down. So that has been shut down. I noticed that when I was up at Knifel today that Game and Fish has closed up that little cleaning station that was put in, so that's shut down for the year as well too. Other than that, I did take a look at the boat ramps to maybe get the ball rolling in conversation for dredging next year. Took a look at McLean. It seems to be in fairly good shape. Possibly, I mean, we all know throughout the winter we may see something else in the spring once the spring comes, but Kimball Bottoms is our perpetual problem child, and Knifel is still kind of in a state of we should probably do something as well again next year, or plan to do something like that next year. I would ask the board's permission, if you see fit, over the winter to start getting the 404 permit ready. We can make a decision later on, maybe January, February, if we want to, at least submit it so we get the paperwork done, and then we can put it out for quotes once the ice is off, so we know for sure what the quantity is going to be and if it really needs to be done. But I just thought in anticipation, hopefully the water's a lot higher next spring. Right now it's running pretty low.
Yeah.
Coming out of Garrison Dam at 18,000 cubic feet per second. The water's down about 2.5 feet from what it was earlier this summer, 3 feet possibly. So it's running really low right now. Hopefully that, and I haven't seen any projections for next spring. That's a big crystal ball to look at that one. The projections for the next 3 weeks, I can tell you those. The Corps hasn't changed those. But I just wanted to get that out there, conversation-wise. Maybe start thinking about that again for next year for those at least Kimball and Knifel. Maybe McLean, but if it is, it's going to be a very small amount because there's not a lot of area there. We do know with that boat ramp that pretty much if concrete, with the concrete boat ramp goes out there, and then the grade of the river bottom kind of drops off. So it's not like it builds in there. It's just whatever kind of sits on top of that concrete. So it's going to be minimal at McLean. Kimball, we know how that one runs. So it's going to be probably a decent quantity there. And then up at Knifel, at least what it was last year, if not more. So
At least if we did the applications earlier, we wouldn't be so late getting them cleaned out.
Right, yep, and that's why I wanted to at least have that conversation tonight, so we could, if the board sees fit, I could at least get the paperwork done and get it in. It doesn't take much to do that paperwork and get it into the Army Corps. At least that way we could be ready for it and have the permit in hand.
It makes sense to me to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get the paperwork moving.
We'll just plan on it.
You want that in a motion, or
I don't know that that's necessary.
just direction?
Consensus.
Okay.
I think everybody understands the significance of getting ahead of that game. So.
Yep.
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 Okay.
Perfect.
And we'll get that done. Other than that, things went pretty smoothly.
Good.
Still people camping, still people fishing. So it's in good shape.
What are they catching?
I haven't heard that.
yet.
I've seen them fishing.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Nope.
All right.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. Appreciate that. It was a good update. Any other business for the County Park Board?
Chair, one little piece. I was notified on Friday that the DAV has completed their 6-year agreement with maintaining the Driscoll Sibley Park, and their hope is that we will find somebody else to take care of that park moving forward. Their group is getting older, and they're having a little tougher time getting out there and finding members to go out and do the mowing and the cleaning. So they kind of gave me the desire of theirs is not to re-sign, and we can find somebody else. So I think we'll ask some 4-H groups or some other local groups to see if they can take on that. But we've got time. We've got this winter to work through it.
Okay. Then we also have we have a guy that does mowing and whatnot at some of these various areas.
Yes.
And maybe he'd be interested in expanding that as well.
Yep. Perfect. That's it.
Okay. Anything else for the County Park Board? Okay, I'm going to adjourn the County Park Board. Thank you. And I'll call the October 21st, 2024 meeting of the Burleigh County Commission to order. First item is roll call of members, please.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Here.
Commissioner Munson.
Here.
Commissioner Bakken.
Here.
Commissioner Schwab.
Here.
Chairman Bittner.
Here. Next item is approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second to approve. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. Consideration of the October 7th, 2024 meeting minutes and bills.
I looked at the meeting minutes and the bills, and all look to be in order. Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? There was a special meeting at one of these past meetings.
Are we,
That was
That was the one before.
one before.
Yep.
we want correct typing in this? Down just below County Engineer Hall, I don't know if this makes sense to anybody, Commissioner Bakken to extend the public hearing, it should be.
Extend.
Proofread it. It should be extend.
Yeah, I will amend my motion to include that correction.
Okay, good eye.
It's minor, but
It's good eye.
kind of looks like, well, I'm not gonna say.
Okay.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Thank you for that clarification. Call the roll.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. Next item is a consent agenda. Anybody want to pull anything off of there for discussion, or what are your wishes?
Move to approve?
Second.
Motion is second to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. Next, Engineer Hall. We have 3 items: public hearing, vacation of access right-of-way, maintenance certification, and Highway 10 weight limits. Marcus, welcome.
Good evening, Commissioners. First item that I have is the vacation or possible vacation of excess right-of-way. We did continue the public hearing. From the last meeting, you had some questions for the state's attorney as well as for me in regards to different parts of this. I don't know if the state's attorney would like to address those questions first, and then I can follow up with a couple of things I checked into.
So the questions that I had last time were whether or not we could do this if the county commission wanted to. And yes, you can give up a portion of a right-of-way as long as you're keeping that portion that's required to be there as necessary for the road that we have. And so it's just a matter of drawing up the right documents. If this is an easement, then it is basically redefining what that easement is and filing that with the recorder's office. If we do own the land that's in the right-of-way, then it would be a transfer of property to whomever would purchase that land. So it's just which document do we draft up if the county commission wants to give that up. So the things that I would have the county commission consider is when this easement was put in place, I think 1940s is what I had heard, is when it was put in place, that there might have been some future development in mind as to why they got an easement that was more than what they needed or was required at the time, keeping in mind that Highway 10 was a major thoroughfare back in before I-94 was made. But, consider what may happen in the future, because if you have it now and give it up and you need it again in the future, it's a lot harder to get it back than it is to give it up. So keep that in mind as you're making your decision.
Okay. So is that an easement or an actual owner?
That was an actual ownership of that particular property.
Okay, so it's not an easement. Is there a requirement that property be sold at bids, or how does that?
So if you look, and I'm not going to use all the legalese that's involved with it, but if you look at the portion that's in your packet, there's a map that shows that it's approximately 1.61 acres, and it's a small strip of land that wouldn't benefit anybody other than the adjacent owner. There's no need to do like a bid or anything like that because it's such a small parcel and because of where it's situated and how it wouldn't be of use to anyone other than those adjacent owners. There's an exemption for having to go bid.
Okay.
I'll follow up with a few additional items. Number one, as I said at last meeting, I believe I said, I'm basically just processing a request from the residents in that area to pursue the returning of this property to them to get it back on the tax rolls. And then my understanding is that they're going to follow up and do a plat of this area, and then they would include that particular property. Along that area, we are still maintaining a 100-foot easement. Our typical, what we have is 75 feet. Let me rephrase it, 100 foot of ownership. It's not an easement. We'd have 100 foot of ownership through that area. So that strip, the 1.6 acres, basically that would be consistent with the rest of the property on either side of that particular area. I believe in the corner there on 83 and Highway 10, at one time they were just thinking about the possibility of an interchange being at that location. So that's why it is excessive on all 4 sides. They have reduced that property on the other 3 corners, and we're just starting to reduce it on the southwest corner. We would still have plenty additional right-of-way in that location if we chose to move forward with some type of I doubt if we'd ever do an interchange at that location, but some type of expansion, lights at that location, a roundabout at that location, some other type of feature, we would still have plenty of right-of-way to work at that location. One of the other things that came up during our discussions is the cost associated, or what is the value of that property. And I mentioned at the last meeting, typically right now we're paying about $3,000 an acre for roadway right-of-way. I did have a chance to talk to the Burleigh County Tax Director, and he felt he would feel comfortable with saying the value of that property is worth $3,500 per acre. So that was his input on that particular item. At this point, I would happy to answer any questions you may have, and then we hope at the end that you direct the Highway Department how to proceed with this particular application.
Said it was 1.6 acres.
There's two parcels there. The 1.6 acres is the longitudinal portion, and then right at the corner, there's an additional 0.35 acres.
So that's 1.95.
9.6.
9.6.
Yeah. Okay. Got a calculator? What's that at 3,500?
$6,860.
6860.
6860.
Okay. Okay, anything else you want to add?
Nope.
Chair.
Okay, so this is a continuation of the public hearing, correct?
I
Okay,
have
go
a
ahead.
question for Marcus. before
Okay,
we leave.
he's first.
Quick question for you, Marcus. When the DOT vacated or took their building and all of their equipment out of there, what condition is that land left in?
Commissioners, at this point, they still haven't removed all of the material and stuff that's in there. Our agreement basically with them is that it'll be any type of buildings or anything laying on it, such as the Jersey berries or any other kind of scrap that they have on it, they have to remove all of that. We did have a discussion on the laydown area, which is a blended base, basically. They said they still wanted that, so we said, fine, then get it out of here as soon as you can. So they'll pick that up and take that away with them. So then we also said at that point, we wanted it basically black dirt back on it and seeded so it's very similar to what's adjacent to it.
That was my biggest question right there.
Yep.
Mhm, makes sense. Commissioner Schwab?
I got my answer about the laydown material.
Okay. Okay, well, if you want to stay available, this is a public hearing. Does anybody else wish to speak on this item? This is a public hearing. Does anybody else wish to speak on this item? Third and final call. Does anybody wish to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, what are your thoughts?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the sale, 1.96 acres at $3,500 an acre.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes,
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries.
Commissioners, just for your information, I will follow through with that sale once the DOT gets all of their stuff off of that particular property and cleans it up. So, the next item I have on the agenda.
Hang on, Mark.
Yep.
Marcus, what's the timeline with DOT as far as getting that cleaned up? Because I'm kind of curious if we have an opportunity to sell that now and somebody wants to move forward with the sale process pending DOT's cleanup.
Commissioners, the last I heard, they had several projects that they were in the process of letting, and depending on how those went, those Jersey berries are going to be part of that process. So if the contractor wanted to start right away with those particular construction projects, they could remove those Jersey berries yet this fall. They may be next spring before those get off.
Okay.
That's something that the DOT is a little bit lack of a better term, wishy-washy on.
Okay. Well, I'm questioning hanging up a sale, that if somebody has an intent, hanging up a sale, waiting on that timeline, because that could get drug out and drug out and drug out. So is there an opportunity to maybe proceed with that sale and
Contingent on.
Contingent on.
Absolutely. We'll
Okay.
work with our state's attorney's office and the buyers on that particular property and work out something that works for everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
The next item I have on the agenda is every year the Burleigh County Highway Department reviews all federal aid highway projects and certifies that they meet or are being maintained in good and safe conditions for the general public use. We have done that. As part of that process, the county board has to approve a certification and directs the proper county officials in signing that certification. There's a proposed resolution in your packet. The certification is also in your packet. I've also gave a copy of that to the auditor, so he will be approaching the proper individuals if you pass that particular resolution. I'd recommend approval.
Move to approve as recommended.
Second.
Motion second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. Go ahead.
The next item I have on the agenda is County Highway 10, looking at various aspects of the area in which we reduced the load and reduced the speed on. Back in September of 2023, we had a lot of breakup going on that particular segment of roadway, basically from 66th Street out to 158th. That's the area in general that we were looking at. We reduced it at the speed limit and we reduced the weight at that time. At the last meeting, also at that time, we had made the comment to the public that we would reconsider those reductions once the project had taken place to repair those areas. We have completed that project, so we decided, well, we should at least reconsider what we've done out there and decide where to go. There were several different approaches coming at the last county board meeting, and I'd asked for just a little bit of time to pull that kind of all together and put a resolution together that kind of hopefully answers all the questions that we need answering for that particular process. So I would like to just walk through the proposed resolution in your packet and talk a little bit about each one of the items. And then the county board can decide on what ones they want to approve, what ones they don't want to approve, or how they want to change that. So to begin with, the speed limit, what I'm proposing in the resolution, and this is based somewhat off what the county board was saying last time to match with that, is from the Bismarck city limits, which is 66th Street, out to 119th. We would set the speed limit at 55 miles an hour. That's basically what it was before this project started. That was the location of where we had. So that's really no change from what we have now and what we propose to have what we had before this the problem started to occur. And then from 119th Street to the county line, I would propose a 65 mile an hour speed limit with a truck speed limit of 55. That is based on what the county board was basically stating your desires were last time. I will reiterate that as a highway engineer, I'm not necessarily totally in favor of that because those changes in speed limit create a speed differential and we can have problems with that, safety concerns. So I'm not necessarily recommending that, but I did put it in the proposed resolution because that's the way the board was leaning last time. So that's the way I put it in there. I would not care if you wanted to leave it at 55 or if you wanted to leave it all at 65. But as long as it's consistent across the board, that's what's more important to me. Okay. I will go into the weight restrictions now, unless the chair and the board would like to talk about speed first and then do weight second.
You just want to talk about the speed limits?
Actually, I would. I'm not in favor
Commissioner.
of splitting speed limits because you wind up with congestion issues and having a extensive background with running a family business and trucking speeds. I'm just not in favor of having truck speeds versus vehicle speeds. So either I would like to see it all at 65 or all at 55. I don't really care either way, but maybe if Sheriff Liebman's got some input on that as well, I'd be entertained his input. But I'm just not in favor of splitting up truck speeds and regular traffic speeds.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I would agree with Marcus on that. We do have a lot of truck traffic out on Highway 10. Obviously, can we enforce it that way? Yeah, we can, but it would create some congestion issues. The other thing is, obviously, we're pretty saturated with 65-mile-per-hour speed limits now in the state. So I think Marcus and I talk about this a lot. What is the natural speed and flow? And ultimately, like Marcus said, I'll support whatever this commission wants to do. But I think if we do go with 55 all the way out there, we're going to see increased enforcement because it is kind of a wide open road. It's built very nice, and I think people tend to travel at that 60 to 65 naturally. So again, sometimes, like I said, we've had a lot of conversations, Marcus and I, as we looked at other roads in the county. I think the road can sustain it. It's just the wear and tear on it.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Bachman?
Last year,
Sorry, I called you Bachman. Sorry.
He's better looking.
Commissioner Schwab, sorry.
last year I got a lot of calls on that road about trucks speeding. 65 means maybe close to 70 and whatever. And I never got a one call that said they're not going fast. Well, this year, since that road's been fixed, I've got 2 calls, one from a biker and one from a lady, and they are happy at 55. We don't have to fight them trucks. Nobody has called me, rural or farm or whatever, and said, we got to get that up to 65. There's a lot of traffic, going through Apple Valley and stuff. That's a very heavily traveled road. I can't support going over 55 on that and keep it equal. Nobody's complaining to me, and I'd be the guy they call.
Commissioner Bachman?
So getting through Apple Valley, would there be another point to maybe keeping it through Apple Valley to 55, and then after we get past that, going to 65, Marcus?
119th gets us out there quite a ways. We're pretty rural after that, so 55 out to that spot is a pretty reasonable spot. We may want to go a little bit farther. If you remember correctly, before these changes, we had 55 to basically down that valley where Apple Creek crosses Highway 10. That's where the change was at. And if we wanted to continue it at that location, we could do that too. So.
Okay. I would be in favor of that if you want separate motion or wait until you get through the other part of this. But I would be in favor of keeping it 55 until through that point, and then 65 for the rest of the way out.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I'll make that a motion then if you want it now.
Okay. I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Commissioner Munson,
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab,
No,
Commissioner Woodcox,
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes. Motion carries.
Okay.
Okay, weight limits.
Yeah, I'll go on to the weight limits then. As we talked about, I do believe this road is capable of handling 105.5. The only issue is the more weight you put on a particular road, the quicker it'll break down. So we just have to keep on that in mind. So what I'm recommending on this particular segment of roadway from the city Bismarck, city limits, 66th Street, going out to 158th, I would recommend 80,000 pounds with legal axle loads on those vehicles.
For those at home that may not be privy, could you explain the difference between the legal axle road and?
Yes, during this transition period, we had a six-ton axle load, and that was a fixed number, 6 ton. So under legal axle loads, it can vary from 6 all the way up to 8 to 9, maybe. It depends on the configuration of your vehicle. So each vehicle is dependent, it has its own maximum weight. Now, it's a complicated table when you show that on trucking as far as legal weights go and stuff like that. But law enforcement is very familiar with that information, and truckers are generally very familiar with that information. So when we state legal axle loads, they're comfortable with that. So
Thanks, Mark.
so then from 158th over to US 83, over to Sterling basically, we're recommending that we would run a 105.5 with legal axle load configuration on that segment too. So that's a step up in that area. And then from Sterling going out to the county line, we would recommend 80,000 pounds with a legal axle load configuration. So we step back down on that last portion. And the only reason I step down on that last portion is we have a lot less traffic out there. So if we keep the heavier loads on it, it may break down quicker. And under our current funding situation, spending a lot of money on that last segment of road may be very hard to come by. So just recommending that we keep that load a little bit less out there to extend the life of that particular roadway. In addition to that, we're making 2 additional recommendations. During this transition time, we basically did not approve any overload permits. At this time, we would go back to approving overload permits on that roadway with the previous established rules that we apply to all those overloads. And that would basically carry us from the city limits all the way to the county line. In addition to that, the county can, under the load pass permit system that we have, use and allow a harvest permit to go into effect. This would help our farmers out in that area a little bit. So from July 15th to November 30th, they would be allowed to increase their maximum loads from 80,000 to 88,000. Basically, it's a 10% increase for them out in that area. That is our recommendation, and the resolution is included in your packet. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I've got one for you, Marcus. With regards to the harvest permit, because that was really the only concern that, well, it wasn't the only concern, I shouldn't say, but I had 3 contacts concerning harvest time, and they're concerned about how much they were going to be able to haul for good reason. And I just want to let you know I appreciate the harvest permit concept, because I don't think they knew about that. So does that harvest permit limit them, or do you know, the question is, do you know if farmers, producers are hauling heavier than 88,000, can they do the 105.5? Or do any of them run that?
I did look at that. They're not allowed to go any more than the 105.5. Okay, so there's no 10% on top of that. Okay, so that's a hard max.
Yep.
But they can go higher on the 80,000 up to 88. So.
Right. Okay, so if somebody came along and they had a grain truck, and I don't know that I've ever seen one that was able to haul 105.5, would they be able to permit that?
Well,
under the
at
overload?
This point, if we approve the segment in between 158th and 83 as 105.5, they could run on that as 105.5.
Sure.
So beyond that, they would not be able to run 105.5.
Right. Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Munson.
Marcus, I would assume that would also be then with the legal axle loads.
Yeah, I
105.5. Not taking a tandem axle truck to 105.
Yeah, I believe
Okay.
that's still legal axle loads
Okay.
under the harvest permit legal axle loads.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yep.
Because some of those guys will pull a pup behind,
Yep.
and that would get them to their 105.
Okay, sure. I know a guy that hauls for a farmer, and they actually have an air system on their truck, so they know what they're loaded with every time they load that truck. They're good to go. I didn't know such a thing existed, but okay.
Mr. Chair, I would move to approve the weight limits as outlined in our packet.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. Appreciate the hard work on that. Next item, Bravera Insurance presentation. Bravera Insurance in the room. Well, they called me and asked me to put it on the agenda. And so I put it on the agenda, and I think we'll just add that to the agenda for the next meeting. Just keep it going, give them a chance to show up. They might have forgot. Okay, next is city recreation discussion. Commissioner Munson?
Yes, I would like to invite the Bismarck Parks and Rec to come on up. As you see in your packet, I'll kind of talk about it a little bit as they're coming up. There was a joint powers agreement that was approved in, now I get to the bottom of that page, 98, between the city, the park district, and the county. Basically, the JPA that was approved says that we will levy one city mill to city residents. The distribution of the funds, as it's outlined in here, 35% of that mill will be split 50-50 between the county and the city park district for the benefit of riverfront improvements. 35% will be used at Sibley Park. 15% will be used for improvements at Burleigh County, for the Burleigh County Park Board, and 15% will be for law enforcement along the riverfront. An item that did not get into your packet, I have at your table. It is a listing from the Parks Department of all of the money that they've spent since 2013. They've highlighted each project that they've done and where they've spent their money and whether they were over or under for that year's distribution. With that, I'll call on Kevin Klipfel.
Thank you, Chairman Bittner and Commissioners. I'm here to answer any questions and try to answer any questions you may have on this process.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions?
Question I would have, Chair, back in either 14 or 16, Burleigh County Commissioners voted to only assess the portion that is being given to the city and not collecting the portion that would help our own Burleigh County park districts. My first question, probably more for if Kevin knows about it or not, I wasn't around at that point and I don't recall that vote. Question for State's Attorney is, wouldn't that need to be done annually? My understanding is we are still only assessing the amount for the city portion or the city parks department portion of it. But my question is, why would the county not collect portion of that funding for their own parks improvement? And I think
I guess about the only answer, about the only answer I would say is that we're already budget for each individual park and boat ramp and all that. So
this would help pay for it.
Well, yeah, but it's already budgeted.
Already budgeted, okay.
You know, it's budgeted separately, so that
Sure.
this just wasn't needed.
Okay. Okay.
Does this budgeting, you know, I looked at it, and I see, do they count the fairground as a park, being that they put a park in there? Because if they did, we're paying $6,500 for a building that belongs to us, in my opinion.
Based on what was here.
I don't see it listed here.
Yeah, it's not listed. Money hasn't been expended towards that from this allocation of funding.
So, forget it.
I do believe the park that was placed out at the fairgrounds was mostly a donation by a group of 4-H people.
Chairman Bittner and Commissioners, both Commissioners Schwab and Munson, so the money that we receive from the county 55% of that is allocated for the riverfront, that's from Fox Island to Pioneer Park, and 45% is allocated to General Sibley Park. None of these funds are allocated for the Missouri Valley Complex or that playground at that location.
Okay. Perfect.
Bismarck Parks and Recs has its own mill levy authority, right? You have your own budget, your own park board.
Correct.
Okay. So I guess I'm not real clear on why we're collecting money for Bismarck Park Board.
I kind of look at it, Chair Bittner, as it's one of the items that Burleigh County is doing for the benefit of all residents in Burleigh County, which does include the city. You know, to me, I'm kind of a farmer, so to me it kind of reminds me of that seed that you plant and you watch it grow, and at the end of the day you've got an asset. The items that the Park District has taken the money that we've allocated for this JPA has helped grow our Park District, it's helped grow our riverfront, it's helped grow a lot of programs in our area. Now, being part of the chamber, one of the things I've done is interview a lot of young people that have moved to our community. They move here for their job, but they stay here and they list amenities as the reason that they stay here, and typically in that top 3 amenities is listed as a park, or listed as the Park District, or listed as the programs. So personally, I feel like this is a great way for Burleigh County to help our community grow and keep our young people here.
I understand what you're saying, but I think that's the mission of the Parks and Recreation District, not the mission of the County Commission. Commissioner Schwab.
Well, I have a suggestion for you guys. Why don't you hit up the Garrison Diversion? I mean, I'm dead serious.
That's right.
They're trying to be relative in this day and age and aren't, and I see they are giving you guys money. Right there, we gave them what, 700 and some thousand next budget?
Yeah.
Enough's enough.
Well, and to be honest with you, that's the reason the Park District qualifies for those grants from Garrison Diversion, is because Burleigh County is part of the Garrison Diversion. If Burleigh County is not part of the Garrison Diversion, correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe someone from Garrison can correct me, Bismarck Park District wouldn't be able to get those grants because we're not part of that program.
I thought they're giving grant money to counties and whatnot that are not on that.
Again, correct. I could be wrong.
I thought I saw that in the handout from last meeting.
But I think we qualify because we are, but I could be wrong. I don't have that for a fact.
I think that what we're getting from the Garrison Diversion, we could spend our money a lot wiser and save money for the taxpayer. It's a pass-through thing. It's not going to affect our budget. It can't, because we're just collecting like the IRS, for heaven's sake. But it's our job to protect the citizens, and I think it's just a bunch of BS, to be honest with you, that they get a cut of everything that goes through to be relevant, and actually we can do the same thing and save money.
So, Commissioner Schwab, are you talking about the Garrison Diversion or this JPA?
I'm talking about paying the Garrison Diversion.
Okay.
We pay them, and then they give out grants, and they're relevant.
No, I get that, and that's on later on in the agenda.
Yep.
I just want to make sure we're relevant to this topic. Sorry.
Well, I think it would be a lot more transparent to the citizens if the funding for Bismarck Parks and Recs was through their funding levy, not the county levy. It would be the same difference, but I just don't think we need to be collecting. And
I wish I knew the history in '98 when this was brought before the county board to create this partnership and to help the city grow.
I wonder if there might be some record of that.
Auditor Sponskowski, can we ask you to dig in the books?
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Don't laugh so hard.
I'm sorry. That was not on purpose. Yeah, can I get to the final budget and the general election first?
Oh, I get that. I get that. We don't have to take action on this today.
Okay.
We have, if we choose not to be part of this, we need to give them a written notification by the end of the year. We've got some time, but I'd really like to know the history as to why this was created. And I mean, I know you guys were on the board when we reduced it to the just half, or the 6.625 mils.
Yeah.
But I'd really like to see the history of why it came about in the first place.
Maybe the former auditor might know, because he's on the.
He signed it?
Mm-hmm.
Bill Woken and Kevin Glott and
Okay, I guess we'll just carry
Table
on that.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner
I have
Woodcock.
one question on one of these expenses that maybe you can help me with. Sertoma Park Sovereign Land Access, that's about 40% down the chart. Almost $200,000. What, do you know what that is? What it?
Chairman Bittner and Commissioners, Commissioner Woodcox, that was for the parking lot improvements at, by the Sand Volleyball and Wildwood Horseshoe Complex down there at Sertoma
okay.
Park.
I know
and
where
then
it's at.
access out to the sovereign
They
lands
bought that
also.
land out near the river.
Correct.
Okay, great.
Okay, any other questions for?
we'll let Auditor Sponskowski get through the election, and then we'll bring this back up and see if we have some history.
Okay. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Kevin.
Commissioners, I just want to thank you for your partnership over the last 25 years with this, because I think it is, like Commissioner Munson said, I think it's beneficial to our residents, and it shows a good leadership. I think that you've participated in this for that many years, so thank you.
Okay, County Planner Mitch Flanagan, Macedonsky subdivision and Cherney Morissette subdivision.
Yeah, good evening, Commissioners, Mr. Chair. Yes, that's Cherney Morissette. In your packet are two items from the recommendation of the October 9th Planning Commission. First one up is the Macedonsky final subdivision. It's out in Sterling on Highway 16 or 14. This is a 79-acre parcel that contains four lots. It was recommended approval 6-0. The plat is fairly busy on the fact that it has four lots there, and it's got a gooseneck lot that also has a 66-foot easement running east to west on it. There was some discussion on what they plan to do with that, if they're going to subdivide it again, and that, you know, for them to go back through a subdivision, they'd have to go through the same process of what this went through. It's Sterling Township recommended approval of it. They did not consider changing any of the zoning. They're just going to leave that as ag. The stormwater management waiver was approved on October 7th. The paving waiver was approved on September 4th, and the public hearing was on the 9th. This plat went through 4 revisions to reach this point, and it's recommended to be approved.
Okay, Commissioners?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. Next.
Next up is the Cherney Morissette final subdivision. This is a 5.57 acres that has 2 parcels. One is 1.89 acres and the other one is 3.68. They wanted to build on the property, and I told them that it was never platted, so they need to plat. It's also in a flood zone, And so we had flood zones AE and the shaded X zone, John, on the plat, so we know wherever buildings are gonna go, we have that guideline to determine the elevation, that sort of thing. And it was recommended for approval at 6.0. It's in Riverview Township. The stormwater management plan waiver was approved on the 7th of October. The paving waiver again was on November 4th, and the public hearing was on the 9th. This plat went through 4 revisions to reach this point. It's recommended to be approved.
Commissioners?
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion
you,
carries.
Commissioner.
Thank you, Mitch. Next. Finance Director Jacobs, unclaimed property list. Welcome. Oh, not Lee.
Just substitution.
Okay.
Sorry, this didn't make it into the packet.
Okay, thank you.
On your drive, but there you go.
Well, I don't see my name on there anywhere, so, okay.
So those are just the list of checks that are outstanding as of, and I don't have it in front of me, but as of the date on that report. And we will just need your permission to cancel those checks and send them to unclaimed property.
Need a motion? You want a motion?
Yes, please.
Okay. Commissioners will entertain a motion to cancel those checks and send the amounts to the unclaimed
Move
property.
to do just that.
Okay. The motion's there. Second. A motion and a second. You got the motion, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next, County Sheriff Lieben, Capital Electric Rate for Fee Agreement and Burleigh East Renovation Project. Welcome, Kelly.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. The first item is a Capital Electric rate fee agreement. And with us tonight is Josh Schaffner with Capital Electric. To give you a little background, we have worked with Capital Electric in the past ever since we took over occupancy of the new Burleigh Morton Detention Center. Obviously, that facility has a big impact with the electrical usage out there. And so we have met over the course of that building's existence with Capital Electric looking at cost-saving ideas. We were recently reapproached by Capital Electric, Josh and some of his co-workers, to talk about 2 things. The first one is this Capital Electric rate fee agreement. And basically, I'll bring Josh up here shortly and he can explain more and answer questions. But currently, when they look at our usage of that facility and the peak demand times and the different things like that, they have approached us and basically said this new rate fee agreement they believe would be a short-term cost savings for us. And what I mean by short-term is we have the option to go to it, but eventually, probably around the first of the year, we would be mandated to switch to this fee agreement. In the short term, it's going to save us, they think, roughly about $1,650 a month. And in the first of the year, it sounds like there will be a fee increase that we will incur either way. And so that may negate some of the cost savings. But again, there will be some pros and cons to going to this. Last thing I'll say before I bring Josh up, I do believe I've reviewed the joint powers agreement for the Burleigh Morton Detention Center between us and Morton County. I do believe this is one piece of action that only needs to come before this board to be authorized and not before both boards. Unless you have any questions, I'll have Josh come up and kind of take over the nuts and bolts of it.
Any questions for Sheriff? Okay.
All right.
Welcome, Josh. Good to see you.
Thank you. So, like Sheriff Lieben had said, our rate structures are changing, and Capital Electric would be forcing the detention center into, or out of a commercial rate and into what we call our coincident peak rate, and that would be starting in January 2025. So we did a little research into the facility, and they have the potential to save about $1,700 per month starting right now just by switching rates. No changes needed, just essentially going on to a different rate plan. We have some options for further savings that we can talk about in a future date, but the intention here this evening is to make this change before November 1st so they can take advantage of 2 months of savings of roughly $1,600 to $1,700 a month. It would be a move that's going to be required anyway as of January 1, just by our rate structures. So being proactive and making the move now has some savings opportunity there for the next 2 months.
Well, it seems to make real good sense to me. Is there a downside to doing this? I mean, you're offering to save us money. I can't argue with that.
Yeah,
right?
On this other rate, the summer bills could potentially be a little higher than they are now, but over the course of the year, the averages is about a $1,600 per month savings. You know, it's somewhat of a new opportunity, as a rate we didn't have available a couple of years ago. That's why we reached out to the facility at this time.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to add anything else?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I'll just go a little bit further. What Josh kind of alluded to, we are looking at some additional cost savings, which might be even more significant. It would require us to come off of the grid during peak usage times for the cooperative and potentially run our generators to sustain the facility for power. So we're looking at that. We've looked at this in the past. I don't want you to get all excited. We looked at it in the past and it didn't make sense, but we did sit down with Josh again and discuss it, and we want to at least review it again before we make a recommendation.
Right. I remember those conversations from before. So, okay, there's a proposed resolution in the packet. Commissioners?
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion second to approve. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Woodcock.
Is that just for the 2 months? Is that what your motion is, just for the 2 months, or the
No,
continuing
for
program?
the new program going forward.
Continuing program, we didn't really discuss a whole lot, other than it can be, we have got some investments to be made after the first of the year. And then when they switch us over to where we're using our generators, we have to run our generators, which is, in my mind, is good for a generator to be run occasionally. And the savings would be. No, I wasn't even on board. Now you can't hear me either. Anyway, the savings after that time is $13,000 a month, not $1,250.
Correct.
2 months, okay. Just so everybody understands that.
So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, just to clarify, this is just for that whatever Josh referred to it as.
Coincidence rate.
Coincident
Your
versus
program.
commercial
Yeah.
rate. And so so we're probably quite a ways away from even reviewing the other proposal. This would just move us to the coincident peak rate.
Correct.
Yep.
At no
Yeah.
additional infrastructure cost for us.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Next item I have is the Burleigh East architectural and engineering selection process. So as you're aware, at the last commission meeting, this board directed us to move forward with looking at architectural and engineering services. We did that. Basically, it falls under the threshold where we don't have to bid it. So what we did was ultimately reached out to 4 different companies, conducted a walkthrough of the facility with them, went over the project as we see it, and received proposals from all 4 companies. Basically, what we did then is the 2 primary people on this project for our department is Major Jim Holm, Sergeant Nathan McLeish. Jim is unable to be here tonight, but Sergeant McLeish is if there's any questions. So basically, they did that walkthrough. They gathered the proposals from the company. We then brought in Dan Sherock from the County Highway Department to help us review these proposals. That committee met myself, Major Holmes, Sergeant McLeish, and Assistant Engineer Sherock. Ultimately, the committee selected Jeff Ubel based on the proposals submitted. Basically, when we looked at all of the proposals and the material that we had to review, Ubel did come in as the lowest cost, but also there was a lot of things noted in the proposal or in the selection. Ubel had great project understanding, extensive experience with the county and with that building, positive walkthrough discussion on the project. He had a favorable project timeline because we are looking at ARPA fund usage, so there is some time constraints there. One of the big things was actual cost billing without overhead. Some of the other companies did have overhead included in their cost estimates. One of the things Ubel is looking at is this would be, and it's a term I'm not familiar with, but Dan was, the project will be billed hourly with a not to exceed clause. So we see the cost of the engineering and architectural services, but regardless of the project cost, those are fixed and won't exceed that. So at this time, or earlier today, I did meet with Mary Singer, since she was a part of the Provident, had a lot of good knowledge and experience from that. She reviewed these proposals and was in agreement with me and our committee on that. So I guess at this time, what I'm asking the commission is, and again, I'm a cop, not a contractor, so bear with me on this. But I think we've already committed to using the ARPA funds, at least the ones I know we had left over from the initial Burleigh East project and also the PPE. So I guess what I would request from this board is the ability to move forward to enter into a contract with Ubel Design and at least start getting our drawings and the project put together so that we can actually next look at what is the proposed cost of this or estimated cost prior to going out to bid. Unless this board has some other direction, that's kind of the way I see where we're at right now with the project.
Okay. I would move to approve moving forward with Ubel.
Okay, hang on, I have a motion and a second, go ahead.
Pardon me?
I have a motion and a second, go ahead.
I believe, I don't know, Ubel, I guess you'd pronounce it, was involved in a feasibility study out at the fairground, and we paid them $16,000, never got a study. I don't know why we are working with this outfit until we get our study. And I have tried to get that study way back. Nowhere to be found, but we never got it. So, in my opinion, that's not the way to run a business. They either owe us a study or $16,000. This goes back quite a ways, but I don't forget that stuff. And that was on the fairground when they did not this last horse arena, but the one before. And they were involved in a study, and they were supposed to produce a feasibility study with somebody else they were involved with, but they were listed. We didn't get it. Well, my opinion, why are we doing business with them? What is the spread on these bids?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Schwab. So I'm not aware of what you're speaking about. I can tell you we did have work with Ubel Design on the Burleigh County Courthouse remodel. That was the last major project. I was just coming in as sheriff in the middle of that project. we had good results with that. So
Well,
the
yeah.
experience we have with Ubel has been good. You know, some of the other things that came into play, you know, is Jeff Ubel has extensive knowledge of that building. He had worked with the highway department, is my understanding. Maybe Marcus can weigh in on that. So, I mean, there is a spread in these proposals. One of the difficulties we had in looking at these proposals is everybody was given the same walkthrough, the same presentation, the same prints to look at of the building. And ultimately, you get a little bit different with each proposal on, you know, what they see the project as, what they see, you know, the cost going to be. So it wasn't like you could just look textbook. We had to do some work as we looked at these proposals. Ultimately, I can't speak to that project. You know, it just was the consensus of all of us that reviewed these proposals.
Well, yeah, the commission can do what they want, but I'm not going to support them on account of that. In business, and as a businessman, you expect results, and if you don't get it, you have to write out a check for nothing. And that's my opinion, what happened there. If we had that study now, we could actually use it for the equine center. Because, you know, it would be the same thing. We didn't get it. So if they don't want to cough up that study, I think amend that thing and say upon getting a feasibility study.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Woodcock.
I did have, one of my portfolios was the courthouse back when we were remodeling that. There was a several $1 million project. We came in on time and under budget, and Jeff was heavily involved in that. I think we had a contractor, a risk type of a contract, but he worked heavily with us in that project. And another one on the Provident, I can't remember exactly when that was, that I worked with him too. So I know I don't know anything about the study you're talking about. Maybe we can do some research on that and find out. Maybe that study has been here and we don't know what it is. I don't know.
No,
Okay.
it wasn't done.
But anyway, I know I talked with the sheriff, and the difference between their proposal and the other three was significant. And did somebody move the approve?
I moved, you seconded.
I second. Okay, thank you.
Well, I assume it's going to pass, but I'm not going to support it on account of that. So they know.
Okay. I do know what you're talking about, and I recall that. And
Yes.
we were supposed to get a report. Now, the only question I have is we should have some facts on the table here about either minutes or something, because I do recall it.
Yeah.
I just don't recall that it was him or the actual firm that was kind of the overall. So,
Well,
I know who
this
the
isn't on
players
agenda,
were,
but they were involved in that. And the feasibility study never showed up.
and
Yeah.
you're right about that. You're
Yes.
right that we
And,
never got the report, and I'm sure Commissioner Woodcock, you remember that, because I know you looked at me when we were walking out and you said you'll get a report.
I don't know what you're talking. I don't know what you're referring to.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. Anyway, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
No.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
No. Motion carries.
Thank you.
I would like some additional information on that.
Yes.
On the background on that. I think we should get to the bottom of that little question. Okay, next, Auditor Treasurer Splonskowski, delinquent tax list, minimum sales price.
Yes, Chairman and Commissioners, this is the same list that was presented to you before 2 weeks ago. However, there was a discrepancy, not in the numbers or the information, but from the Excel spreadsheet over to Adobe Pro. So really only the top part of the Excel spreadsheet printed out into the packet, so I thought it would be right to present the full list before you guys, just so that you would have the full list in front of you before approving it. So it's the same list, just we made sure that was transferred over to Adobe correctly from Excel, so that you would have all the names and properties.
Move we approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Commissioner Bakken?
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab?
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox?
Yes.
Commissioner Munson?
Yes.
Chairman Bittner?
Yes, motion carries. Garrison diversion discussion. Who's got that one? Any further information on garrison diversion?
Mr.
That's
Chairman.
just a leftover from last week.
Right.
Put it on this week.
Right.
Mr.
Commissioner
Chairman, we did
Woodcox.
have a Water Resource District meeting last Wednesday, and I have brought up to date with the Water Resource District what we were intending on doing, which was protesting or trying to get out of the annual $700,000 donation. And I challenged them, because they do a lot of water, they do all the water projects in the county, and I wanted to know whether the garrison diversion ever benefited them, whether they got anything out of it. And so they're gonna look into their records and see what they can find, because if they have substantial uses from the garrison diversion, that blows our theory all out of the water. I mean, then, because we were supposed to have to prove that Burleigh County was not getting any benefit at all. So I updated him on that project, and I haven't heard anything back since then.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, there was
Commissioner
someone that
Munson.
stood up in the back. I don't know if she would like to be recognized.
I am here from Garrison Diversion. If you have
Well, come on up. Come on. Just state your name for the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I am Kim Cook. I am from Garrison Diversion Conservancy District. And here, knowing that there was some discussion, I just thought that I would attend if there was anything that I could help clarify for you.
Okay, well, thanks for coming in. Commissioners, any questions for Kim?
I think we should table this because there's really a mix-up here. I'm looking at a document off their site, and we received $57 million up to date. That's what they say. What they don't say, it's state funds, federal funds, this and that. They're just sitting there duplicating work and getting a cut of it. And I want to get more information on that. And we got the elections to worry about, so I kind of think we should table this down the road. Good winter project.
Okay.
So we can get more information, but I tell you, let me see.
I'm guessing that you might want her contact information then.
Their tax revenue this year, last year was $4,583,060. Now this comes out of the auditor's office, L. He looked it up for me. And they also have around, with their investments and their cash on hand, $21 million. I mean, that's going to really attract flies, I'll tell you that. So why do they need more? And they say they're, what they own or whatever, 93 million, and they just want more and more and more. I think the park board really should go after these guys. Because when we got involved in this, we were supposed to irrigate land, and what do we got? 60-some acres in Burleigh County irrigated?
I don't remember the number, but it was...
It's not very much.
I think it was under 60, but...
I got it right here.
Mr. Chair, I would have a question.
Okay.
To follow up on Mr. Woodcox's question, can you answer the question as to how much money Garrison Diversion gives to or passes into the Water Resource District for their funding?
I don't have that specific number on hand with me. I can tell you that, when you are talking reserve funds and large funding, or amounts of funds, that I'm not the accountant, but I do have some information from our accountant. We do have a large annual budget, approximately $150 million. That's for all of our focus areas: irrigation, recreation, municipal, rural, and industrial, those types of operations and maintenance. With that large budget, we do need some on-hand funds of cash flow to keep the district moving. Of the approximately 33 million that he mentioned for reserve funds. Over 18 million of that is restricted or committed to specific purposes with contract requirements or board action. For instance, contracts with the Bureau of Reclamation or our grant programs. We have the Municipal Rural and Industrial Water Supply grant program. We have the Recreation grant program. And if there are board action taking to help fund studies for different river boards or that sort. So some of those funds are restricted and we can't do, we have to hold those. 9 million is flow-through funds, and then we do have 7.8 million available for operations and 7.5 million unrestricted. So it's not that we have that just sitting there for a rainy day, but that is just a little bit more context for you.
It would be a good point to try to get the information that Commissioner Woodcox was talking about, if you could get that to us.
Yes, we
But
will.
I agree. Let's get through the election and let's push this a
Our
month
hands
out.
full right now.
Okay.
I do have a question. I think we were talking earlier. Do you have to be a member of the water Garrison Diversion Conservancy District to take advantage of grant programs or recreational
Yes.
programs?
Yes, you do. So both our recreation grant program and the Municipal Rural and Industrial Water Supply program, or grant program matching, you have to be one of the 28 member districts of, or member counties, excuse me, of the district to take advantage of those funds.
Okay.
So.
I have a question.
Okay.
It's a good question.
Commissioner Schwab.
It's $57 million that you guys are.
Is microphone, can you get the microphone, please?
When you do a project for $57 million that you're talking about, that isn't all Garrison diversion funds, is it?
No, it's not.
But it sure looks like it is the way it's stated. And that's where I have a problem with this thing. You guys are putting federal funds in here and saying, look, we're doing all this heavy-duty lifting, but basically all you are is a middleman.
We are a pass-through for that, correct.
Yep, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have to say.
Okay, I guess we'll gather more information and we'll talk about this again. Thank you.
Thank you. And
I appreciate you coming
yes,
in.
and Mr. Splakonsky has my contact information, so you
Okay.
can reach out to us anytime.
All right,
Okay.
sounds good.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Woodcock.
did you mention there's an election coming up?
I did mention there's an election
Just in
coming up.
case, I haven't heard a whole lot about it, but it's 2 weeks from tomorrow, which is my birthday too, so let's remember that. And our auditor is going to explain the times and dates and what's going on and when we're starting, and go for it.
You're trying to get away from me.
Can we get that many candles on a cake, Auditor?
Depends on how big the cake is.
Big cake,
Big
big cake.
I have one other statement. Would you
Before
do
he
your
gets
thing
going?
and get it over with? Would you do your thing and get it over with?
Oh, is there anyone, well, it's some other business, so. Is there anybody from Summit Carbon Solutions here? Anybody? Again, no.
Mr. Chairman,
You want to say that?
Mr. Chairman, I still want to
Commissioner
hear, our
Wickman.
super center is going to open up pretty sudden, and if you can give us the dates of that and promote some voting, because we want everybody to get out and vote.
Yep.
It's unfortunate that not very many do.
Yes, early vote will begin at the Bismarck Event Center on October 24th at noon. We have the dates and the times for every day after that on our website at burleighco.gov under elections and early vote. So that's when the early vote precinct starts. So if you want to vote early, that's where you do it at the Bismarck Event Center in the main arena.
Commissioner Bakken.
One question, because I was speaking with the auditor earlier, and Mark, could you tell us where we're at with absentee ballots as far as right now?
So we definitely have a very large turnout of absentee ballots at this time, which is relatively typical for a presidential election. However, following COVID and the influx of absentees that we did that particular year, we are seeing a major uptick in absentee voting versus in-person voting. So definitely are definitely very busy with that whole process.
is taking up most all of our time is the absentee, and then on the top of it, we're getting ready for election day. That is a whole nother process as well. So definitely staying busy. It seems to be a pretty big turnout so far. Hopefully that translates to election day turnout as well.
And how's that compare? Because I think the number had heard was somewhere around 9,000 or so with the absentee ballots.
I'd have to check on that, but it's probably not far off.
Where's that comparing with other counties and some of the discussions you may have had with other auditors?
To be honest, I don't know where other counties are at as far as absentees goes. I'm not familiar exactly with where they're at. We're we're the second biggest county in the state, next to Cass County. So we're right in between Cass County, Grand Forks County, in those areas. So I'd have to contact them to see what they're experiencing with these numbers.
But again, the absentee ballots, there's a great deal of extra work involved with those. So I'm a big proponent of show up on election day and vote on election day. So but as long as you vote, that's all that matters.
Vote.
Thank you.
Vote. That's the important part. Any other business for the good of Burleigh County? Seeing none, we are adjourned.